we have to talk about this prime moment with Sydney Sweeney, where she delivers an incredible example of how to respond or not respond to people who demand an explanation or an apology from you for your beliefs or for anything that you do or say. As some background, Sydney Sweeney, so she's like this absolutely stunning model actress chick from the HBO show Euphoria. She's known for her assets. Okay, so she's got some good assets. I think I'm allowed to say that. But she has been highly criticized since the very beginning of her career. People have criticized her for not being a good actress. People say that she's ugly. People say that she is only good for one thing. People say that she has an ugly face but a pretty body, like really nasty things. One time a family member or like a distant cousin or something wore, God forbid, a MAGA hat at some social event. People found out that it was Sydney Sweeney's family member and they wanted to cancel her over that. You know, the MAGA hat that like 50% of the country owns themselves or won't own because they're afraid that they're going to be, asked to apologize for owning the hat, yada, yada, yada. So she did this interview recently and was asked to speak to her American Eagle ad. I think it was American Eagle. It shows how in the know I am. Where she basically said, I have good genes or something like that. And because she's a white woman speaking about genes and inferring that she herself has good genetics, she must be saying that she is a white supremacist and believes that white people genetics are the best genetics compared to all other races. It's exhausting. Like, just explaining that exhausts me. So she's in this interview with this really cringy lady who won't even make eye contact with her. She's saying a lot, sort of the way I do, but you wouldn't expect from a journalist, but this is where we've gotten to with this professional career. And so she's wanting to give an opportunity to Sydney Sweeney to respond to those accusations of white supremacy. And Sydney Sweeney, I'll just play it because I think we all need to see this.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority like that.
A moment. Her face of just absolute boredom. Boredom is putting it nicely, but contentment for this person is just so, it's beautiful. There's no fakeness to it. It's just authentic. Okay, and she's not being mean. She's just being very real with her expression here. She's not pretending. And in a world of fakeness where people sell out or where people have to follow a script, this is just, it's fresh. Okay, I appreciate it.
That was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
That is stunning. And if you're not familiar with these situations, or if you yourself have not been in this situation, let me open it up for you. If you say something or you don't say something, or you do something or you don't do something, in a really intense political climate like the one we've had since 2015, 2016, when Trump announced that he was running, there are people who demand explanations or apologies from you for what you do or don't do, or what you do or don't say, or how you say it, or how you do it. She wants to give an opportunity, right? So they paint it as being a friend to you, a bud to you, give you an opportunity to explain yourself. That's in summary, you need to explain yourself for doing an American Eagle advertisement and implying that how you look has something to do with your genes, okay? And the double meaning there with your genes. And so it's very manipulative, trying to act like you're doing something for her to try and get more information out of Sydney Sweeney or even an apology. And Sydney wants her to know that you're not going to get that from me. And she doesn't even smile through it. She's just staring her dead in the eye and letting her know, no, you will receive nothing. I have nothing I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to explain myself to you. And I have gone through too many. There's like one day maybe I will divulge all of those stories, or at least a good handful of them. But for now, we'll just stick to one, because it's taken me, I'm 28 years old, and it's taken me way too long to get to this type of unbothered by people who don't love you, they don't care about you, but they want to be a dictator in your life, and they want control over what you say and what you do. And I've had experience growing up, like this has been my life. And it's weird. It's strange. I don't know why Sydney has become, we're on a first name basis, but why Sydney has become a really strong target for these people. It's probably in part because she's beautiful and extremely successful, and she doesn't seem to care. And I know at the beginning of some of the criticisms of her, she would try and explain herself, but then say like, this is my family. My family's allowed to do what they want. So she always had a little bit of like a tough exterior, which I appreciated. But I think because she didn't bow down immediately, they're still begging for her to explain herself. And she won't do it. And I've had experiences like this, but I did not respond all the way up until probably this year. I didn't respond with the level of self-confidence and self-security that she has. And it's beautiful. And an example of this would be in 2020, 2021 with the George Floyd riots and BLM and all of that. Pretty much every white person I knew was doing the Black Square. There was like a day of like Black Square Day, which is basically, it was horrific. It was where white people were very actively showing you that they had allyship and that they weren't racist, and that some of them even were apologizing for their whiteness, apologizing for who they are to Black people. And I didn't, even though at that time I was not nearly as secure in my beliefs as I am now. I had read Thomas Sowell's Discrimination and Disparities. I had read The Quest for Cosmic Justice by Thomas Sowell. And I had been listening to Candace Owens for years. And so I was familiar with like the racism coming towards white people. And I was aware that you shouldn't apologize for who you are. You shouldn't apologize for your skin color. You are not a perpetrator of violence for existing as a white person. Like, I knew all of that at the time, but it was really hard to, at least for me, being insecure at the time, to stand strong in that, and to be confident in that, because you also didn't want people to keep calling you racist. So I didn't do the Black Square thing. I saw all of my friends and family doing it. And guess what? Because I didn't do the Black Square, it's kind of like because you didn't do the blood on the door, like the Jews in Passover, or because you maybe don't wear a Star of David. I don't know, because you aren't, visually wanting people to see where your allyship is, people have questions for you, okay, and you're going to be pressed on it. And I had multiple people message me and want to know, where the frick is your Black Square? And I stood strong. I didn't do this stupid square, and I'm proud of that. I'm glad I didn't do it when people were coming after me. But I remember apologizing for offending them. And I remember stumbling over my words a lot. And I pulled some things from Thomas Sowell's books, and I encouraged people to read it to understand where I was coming from. But I was so eager. I was so upset that people were upset with me. And these were people who, they weren't invested in my life. Okay, these weren't people who asked about my relationship. These weren't people who wanted to know how I was doing spiritually. These weren't people who like checked in. I dropped my mic, sorry. These weren't people who checked in on a daily basis with me and cared about what was going on in my life. I had lost my job. I had to switch careers in like a 3-month time span so that I could go and live on my own again because I had lost my apartment when the film industry shut down and I was working in movies. Like, I was going through so much. It was a really, really hard season for everybody, the whole COVID thing. And these people weren't asking me about any of that. They weren't asking how to help. They weren't, wanting to know how my engagement was going to my now husband. No one was interested in that, but what they wanted to know and what they needed an answer on, an explanation on, and even an apology for was the black square and me not doing the black square. And I groveled. I was so, it's like shameful, but it's also good to remember like where you've come from so that you continue to grow and continue to be grateful to the Lord for how he has, pulled you through really tough circumstances and made you better. But man, at the time I was weak and I felt bad and I would stay up at night looking at the ceiling, like just thinking about how much I wanted people to just like know my heart, and wanted people to love me and accept me. And all the meanwhile, like these people didn't love and accept me, not for who I was, not for my personality, not for my heart, but for whether or not I would do a black square. And this would come later with like whether or not I would vote for the person they wanted, or whether or not I agreed with their ideas of like contracepting and marriage, like really niche things where people really wanted me to believe in that thing, or else I would be blocked, or else they would shame me at family events or in like, I keep dropping this thing, or in family group text messages, or in friend group text messages, like, or in work group text messages. Like people just, they would slander. And people who are going to slander you for what you do or don't do, those aren't people that you need to explain yourself to. You don't need to explain to people that you're not a white supremacist because they're going to find something else. And that's what I learned. It's like if it wasn't the black square, there was going to be something else, and I didn't know at the time, but there was going to be something else that would come up later, all the way up until today in my life, that they were not happy with me on. And they needed me to explain myself or apologize or walk things back. And stop apologizing. Okay? Be comfortable. In a world, of people apologizing for who they are or hiding who they are, in a world where people are laughing at, mocking, and rejoicing in the violent, brutal murder of someone who likes to openly debate like Charlie Kirk, in that world, be a Sydney Sweeney. I can't believe I'm saying that about an American, 20-year-old model. But it's true. Like, God must have known what he was doing when he made her because she just is just this beautiful example of unbothered and being comfortable with, there's this part in the interview where she goes on and on about how, look, I don't really keep up with all of this. I have a pretty full life. And that's how we should be living. Stop explaining yourself. Be unbothered. Let people judge you. Let people come up with all the gossip and slander that they want to do. Because at the end of the day, you know who you are. You know what you believe. You know which God you follow, who you worship. And that's what you're held accountable to. Okay? That's the judgment you're under. Not these rando plebeians. Do people still say plebeians? Not these losers who want to be a dictator in other people's lives. Who does that? Who needs you? If someone is so deeply affected by an opinion you have on something and they feel so morally superior to you that they come into your life and demand words from you or silence from you on an issue, that isn't someone to waste anxiety and your thought life on, let alone apologies and unheard explanations, that they're never going to hear it, okay, because they don't actually care They just want power. They just want control in your life. And again, we all need to follow examples of just unbothered self-confidence. Life is too short to be bowing down to people who don't care about you. And it removes joy and peace from you. And just like, if you're staying up looking at the ceiling because you raged at somebody today, or you were really selfish, or you were thinking nasty thoughts about somebody, yeah, you need to go to your priest or something. You need some sort of healing process to confess all of that and start working through that sin. But sitting there and thinking about how you want people to like you, or how you want people to understand you and approve of you, love me, stop it. Quit that. It's not going to get you anywhere. Certainly not going to get you anywhere joyful. And that's not who you are. Stop wasting that time and energy. So anyway, in a world of people mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, be a Sydney Sweeney.